There's a lot to talk about tonight, especially the focus topic, the Kochen zusammen in Sicha and the after effect, but Lebanon, them, whatever, we'll talk about it. You should know that somebody just sent me a message today. He says, it's incredible that Zoom made the Zoom era is making Gedalim and Lubavitch. You know, everybody's becoming a redna, Farbrengen, a speaker. I know he wasn't speaking about Rabbi Deren, and I'm almost certain he wasn't speaking about Shaul, but whatever. So I'll leave this story at that. I'm not going to share with you the back and forth.
That's entirely irrelevant because by the end of the Farbrengen, it's the Shinzana speaker in Lubavitch. So it's like, you know.
Berl's, because Rabbi Deren, Berl's never been a speaker in Lubavitch.
Yeah, exactly.
Anech Bel Akelim. I don't know what the format is. At some point, does somebody say,
I'll tell you. Let's start. I'll tell you what I'm feeling and thinking. Glad a few things 2-3 weeks ago, and this week because it's connected to the Sicha that we all learned, I'm sure, already for this week, at least this one. Yeah. The Sicha Alef, as they call it online. Just a few thoughts come to my mind. I'm not a skeptic, but I was when this project started. I was so excited about the project, but I'm not involved. I'm just a end user, as they say in America. I'm a participant. I learn every week at least one of the sichas on different levels. Lately Friday nights we started discussing it at home after Kiddush. Anyhow, the sicha of the week. But I was a skeptic. You know, who's the audience? Is this going to happen? You know, who's going to tap into this resource? I noticed that as it started unfolding, so much keiches and work went into it. I said a reservoir in 1 or 2 sichas a week. It's just unbelievable. The manpower and the in-depth presentation, the accessibility to everybody, it was just unreal to me. Anyhow, and we understand and know, all of us today, every child understands what it takes to produce this weekly. We're not talking about a Shabbaton once every 6 months or a Passover Seder. We're talking about weekly to produce this and daily. Anyhow, listen to the story. So since COVID-19, the Yitzi Horowitz always has a group of shluchim and bachrim involved in California, and so the bachrim, since COVID, can be with him every day, daven with him, learn together. So they started a weekly presentation, a weekly guest. Yitzi speaks a little bit in the way he does today, you know, through the electronic technology. And they decide, and they invite a visiting shliach, a visiting member of Anash to share whatever they want. The platform is, so to speak, open. Listen to this. So I'm one of Yitzi's classmates, and I was actually very influenced by Yitzi and my chaverim in Ocean Parkway. I used to actually stay in Yitzi's house many times for Shabbos and Yom Tovim. It's a long story, but we'll get to it one day. So the Bachrim invited me to come on. It was a Friday, and to be honest, it was a very busy time. It was right before Lag B'Omer. I don't know if any of you visited Yitzi's weekly Zoom thing. It was amazing. A number of Bachrim came on, and of course Yitzi did, and we spoke. And what was the topic? I asked, because that was on my lips, so to speak, on my fingertips. I said, Chevra, why don't we discuss? It was rather relevant to something one of the Bachrim asked. I said, do any of you, and you know, I wasn't expecting a yes from everybody, do any of you follow the Likkutei Sichos of the week, the Sichos project, or whatever? There's multiple names to it. Do any of you? And again, every single one, Veisich almost every single one of the Bachrim answered yes, knew the Sicha. We had what to discuss. I was blown away. You know, I don't want to borrow a term, and Rabbi Yisrael will start the Farbrengen soon. But Rabbi Yisrael, you should know that, you know, I don't want to borrow a term. Everybody on the same page. Those that know what that term is usually associated with. Not a Lubavitch thing necessarily, but that's not but the fact that Chassidim around the world, and not only Chassidim, Anash, people from, and I'll share with you another story or two, something that happened this week, this concept about not only can we kachsach and talk about this particular Sicha this week and all the heroes that it has, unbelievable fundamentals, as you know, and everything else, but it's unbelievable how every chassid, shliach, anash, man, woman, child is on the same page, literally in the Rebbe's Torah. We also, how do you connect to the Rebbe? How do you stay connected so we know all the heroes about the Rebbe's Torah?
Very special.
The Rebbe's Torah is the key. Is the right? We see from the Rebbe's heroes that the Rebbe's Torah is the key.
I don't think that it's a leap or a stretch or a hagzoma of any form to say that very likely when the Mittel Rebbe said, as wünscht sich, that wenn zwei Chassidim kommen zusammen, soll man reden wegen Yichudei Lo, Yichudei Tata, which are concepts that are, how do you talk about Yichudei Lo? And this is what should be the common lingua franca between Chassidim. Even in the Mittel Rebbe's times, with the incredible haskalah that was gegossen, how many Chassidim were there like that were able to actually converse that way? Well, that's a gewinschen that this is what should be. And I don't think he was talking about Yemei Mashiach, even though we may be already Yemei Mashiach. This is definitely, I think, das heißt, as Chassidim sollen reden wegen Yichudei Lo, Yichudei Tata. That's if you want, I could probably take the two sichas this week and show you exactly how they are. One is Yichudei Tata and one is Yichudei Lo. But that's already a little bit too much of a...
That's a stretch, Rabbi.
Not that big a stretch.
In this sikh at the end, the talk can fit in. But anyway, yeah. Rabbi Deren, I know you told me that I don't know if we should necessarily read the Sicha, because reading the Sicha we could have to sit for hours and end. I don't know how exactly what, when, where, but perhaps we should begin by just discussing one Nakuda and hopefully roll it from there. No, I don't know.
Well, Rabbi, before we do that, Rabbi Deren, on a soul, Rabbi, we know each other very well for many years, and I'm sure many people that are joining the Farbrengen on how we say, on a random Thursday night. It's a week before Gimmel Tammuz. And Shaul always tells me as a chaver, and we all do. I know how we feel, all Chassidim in their way. We get tzerudit before Gimmel Tammuz, emotionally, in different ways. A week tonight before Gimmel Tammuz, or a little week minus a day even already, and just the fact that we're sitting together, in the way we can today, and it's rather a special thing that we're able to sit in Farbrengen and learn a sicha together, that thousands of members of Anash and Chassidim learn together already this week, and whoever's joining us, it actually calms me down in a sense, and it's able to channel the tzerudikkeit. I don't know the word Shaul told me. Shaul, I'm not going to play it for the world, Shaul, but I have a voice note of you on a WhatsApp a few weeks ago. Whatever, you're also talking about, you can't come this year, Gimmel Tammuz. What other way to calm us down, meaning not to calm us down, but to stay grounded and focused and to learn the Rebbe Sicha together. Anyhow, l'chaim first.
And l'chaim. You clearly don't read my emails, because the topic of my article this past week was don't burn it down, burn it up. So don't calm down, calm up. But yes, you're 100% right. It's Gimmel Tammuz. It's not a week before Gimmel Tammuz. We're into Gimmel Tammuz. Somebody earlier today pointed out to me that the Seders before and after Gimmel Tammuz, the four Seders of Baalescha, Shelach, Kerach, and Chukas, all four sedres, the central theme, or certainly a central theme, if not the central theme, of all four sedres is Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu himself. No, of course, the whole Torah is Moshe Rabbeinu, but about Moshe Rabbeinu, what was the lesson that everything is personal? Personal, okay? It's about Moshe Rabbeinu personal. And that can't be, somebody once said to the Rebbe, when the Rebbe asked him about why isn't he doing something, and then he said, this is nicht gekommen, Stamford is Hashgacha Pratis, and the Rebbe said to him, when did you become a maven, what Hashgacha Pratis is? But Sicha, but it's like Mikra Zu Emor Deshuni. This is about Gimmel Tammuz. So it brings us, I made a obviously unsuccessful attempt to get out of the role of sort of leading off, but just to sum up the Sicha, it's I actually was at the Farbrengen, that Farbrengen. Now I knew that I was at the Farbrengen because I looked at the date and I figured it out. But then, and when I learned the Sicha, the first Sicha, I didn't remember. I didn't remember, which is not unusual that I shouldn't remember a Farbrengen from, I don't know, how many years is it, right? 50 years ago. But then I read this, learned the second Sicha, and oh, did I remember that Farbrengen. Like it was, but we'll get to that in a moment. So I went looking for the actual Hanoch of the Farbrengen in the Lahak, in the Teres Menachem. So it gives a nice kitzur of the Farbrengen when it says go look and look at the Sichas. I mean of the Sicha, but it says go look and look at the Sichas. But so I went back to the actual Hanocha of the Farbrengen, and there are a couple of things there. The general teichen of the Sicha is basically the Rebbe asks the question, why is the parsha called Shelach? It's a sedra that has in it several things, many things. Among them are mitzvahs maisias, actual mitzvahs, and perhaps most importantly, among those mitzvahs is the mitzvah of tzitzis, which is an actual mitzvah, and not just an actual mitzvah, but it's a mitzvah that's connected to all of the other mitzvahs of the Torah, like the pasuk says, "There used to say, "Uschartem es kol mitzvahs Hashem." So it's such a general mitzvah, and it's such a basic and fundamental mitzvah, and it seems, as it were, that it's subsumed under the concept of Shlach Lecha, which is a story. Taka story in Torah, and every story in Torah has a hira, but as the Rebbe says, it as great as and as important as a hira is, it's not nearly as important as a direct mitzvah from the Torah that this is what we have to do.
And the Rebbe uses the word taryag. All the tzitzis is taryag.
Yes, it's all the mitzvahs. Kol mitzvahs Hashem. Okay, kol mitzvahs Hashem Elokechem. Right, all of them, all 613. So that clearly and in fact, though, the Torah does call the parsha Shlach, and the fact that it's called Shlach is not just simply because it's the first of the first words in the Torah, which is what every sedra is called by, because that really doesn't answer the question. It just moves the question to, well, why is that one of the first words in the Torah? In the parsha, it should take. Why didn't Eibishter put parsha Tzitzis in the beginning of the parsha and then go to this? So clearly, if it's this way, then there is a hera in the word Shlach and in the story of Shelach, which is fundamental and is basic and overarching, even more from one, at least from one perspective or from one aspect, that all of the mitzvahs are affected by it or need to be affected by it. So there has to be that kind of lesson. Then it goes on to explain that what was the story of Shlach Lecha. My wife, when she was, I think, 10 years old, she was in Yechidus with her mother, I think, or with her parents, whatever. And the Rebbe turned to her and asked her in English, what she's learning, and she said Shmos. And the Rebbe said, and what is the story there? What's the story? What happened? what's the story in Shelach? The story in Shelach is that Moshe Rabbeinu is told by the Eibush, I'm not forcing you, but if you want to, send spies to Eretz Yisrael and find out what's going on there so you know how to come in there. And the Meraglim come back, and unfortunately they come back saying that it's incredibly difficult, it's impossible for us to go into Eretz Yisrael. And because of that, it led to the consequences that we all know it had. And the Rebbe says, and the simple question, of course, is what did they do wrong? They just sent them to find out what was going on. They came back and they said, this is what it is. They didn't say anything untrue. And the Rebbe explains, of course, that the problem is not what they said about what was happening in Eretz Yisrael, in Eretz Canaan. The problem is in the conclusions they drew from it, i.e. that we can't go in there. Moshe Rabbeinu didn't ask them to find out whether they could or they couldn't. Moshe Rabbeinu told them to come back and tell us what's going on there. We are going there. The question is how we go there.
Oh.
And they, unfortunately, did it the wrong way. And that's the Rebbe says is the hira of Shlach Lecha. In fact, the going into Eretz Yisrael is a metaphor for every mitzvah that we do. Going into Eretz Yisrael, and now I extrapolate or elaborate on my own, and forgive me if I'm going into Eretz Yisrael was taking what they got at Matan Torah, and the almost year following, the Torah that they learned that Moshe Rabbeinu gave them. Presumably that's what happened during those 10 months from Sivan till the Chafir. And now take that, and now we're going to put it into practice. In other words, the Torah that we heard about and the Torah that we learned about, now we're going into Eretz Yisrael and we're going to do it. Bringing it down from a concept, an idea, a feeling, a spiritual thing. Now we're going to put into practice these 613 mitzvahs that you gave us. We are now going to do them in practice. And that's in fact what happens every single time we do a mitzvah. We know that that there is a mitzvah of putting on tefillin in the morning. We get up in the morning and we know that we need to put on tefillin. But just knowing about putting on tefillin is not enough. Even knowing all the halachas of tefillin is not enough. You got to put the tefillin on. You got to take the match and light the Shabbos candle. You have to do it until it brings down the veil. And here is the hira. That when we are told to do it, we're also told, but you have to do it with seichel. You have to do it the right way. You have to do it with logic. You have to do it with seder. You have to. Everything has to be beseder, in an orderly fashion. Again, this is not directly in the Sicha. It's my interpretation, but it needs to be done properly. And to be able to do it properly, you have to figure out how to do the mitzvah properly. So
we have to.
You have to figure out how you know what it says in Shulchan Aruch. You have to put on tefillin, and it says in Shulchan Aruch you have to daven. Now, however, where you should put tefillin on, where you should daven, what time you should daven. Yeah, we know there's a limit by when it has to be done, but within that limit, how much time are you going to spend today on davening? And what are you going to be doing to focus your mind that the davening should be the way it is supposed to be? Let me digress a moment. I heard it's printed in the Sefer already, but a yechidus that somebody came into the Rebbe, a professional, obviously, a scientist or academic or something, a chassid, and complaining about that he doesn't have enough time to finish the work that he has. And the Rebbe said to him that the reason for that is because you're not a masuder. You aren't doing things in an orderly fashion. And doing things in an orderly fashion is absolutely necessary to be able to get done what needs to be done. On the other hand, when you do it in an orderly fashion, you're capable of doing infinitely more than when it's done shalei b'seder. The Rebbe gave the dugma of that Tzemach Tzedek, who was once asked, how is it possible that he wrote, the Tzemach Tzedek wrote, Bekashmius, many tens of thousands of folios in writing, in Shuvas and Chassidus, and I mean, what we have is only a fraction of what he wrote, and we have so much. And someone asked Tzemach Tzedek, "How were you able to do it? Pashut Bekashmius, how you do it?" And he said, "Well, Tamit Seder." And the Tzemach Tzedek had a seder. It was orderly. This is the time that he's writing, and when the time to write ended, even if he was in the middle of a sentence, he stopped. Seder, if it was Seder. The Rebbe says, and how do you do taka bring Seder? What's the key to Seder? So the key to Seder is davening with a minyan in the morning. Davening in the morning with a minyan, that gives the rest of the day a Seder. Davening in the morning with a minyan in the morning is like Rosh Hashanah is to the year. That's like the Rosh Hashanah of the day. If you have the Akop Amsuder, then the rest of the day goes Masuder. And if it's Umgelumpet on a Seder, then it doesn't be. Now, I tell that story just simply to point out when the Rebbe says Losur Esa'aretz, that you have to figure out how to do a mitzvah. We're talking about doing a mitzvah, and he says it's about every single mitzvah. It's about every single mitzvah. That a mitzvah to be done properly has to be done with preparation. And not just a preparation, a ruchnistic preparation. And the Rebbe talks about the l'shem yichud that you do for every mitzvah, or you do once for the whole day. But the Rebbe said that every single mitzvah, before you, and this is not in the printed Sicha and the Mugadik Sicha, but this is in the Hanacha. The Rebbe says an interesting thing. It says there's a Gemara that says you're not allowed to say Lashem Eila. If you're being Makdisha Eila, you're not allowed to say Lashem Eila. To Hashem, the Eila was Hashem's name, that I'm setting this aside for a carbon. Why? Because it could be that after you say the Lashem, something will happen and you're not going to make it for an Eila, and you'll end up having said the Shem Hashem Levatol. You're saying Hashem's name in vain. So they said, when it comes to making a bracha, what happens if you make the bracha? Why aren't you worried that maybe you'll make the bracha and you won't do the mitzvah? Why do we say you're supposed to make the bracha before the mitzvah? You should make the bracha after the mitzvah. That way you won't have a problem of possibly saying a bracha levatala. The Rebbe says, because making the bracha before the mitzvah is a necessary component to make sure that it's done right.
That's the word of the Sicha.
That's what it says in the Sicha. Because it's a necessary, you have to have the preparation. You have to have preparation mitzvah. And there it's talking about, and it could be because the reason, again, I can speculate. It could be the reason that it's not in the Mugadik Sicha is because there it's talking about a ruchnistic preparation. In the Sicha, the Rebbe is talking pashut gashmistic preparation, just like a seder place. How do you do it? How do you get done? You know that you have to give 10% tzedakah. You have to give 10% tzedakah. So now you have to figure out what do I do with my money? How do I budget it so that I end up giving taka 10% tzedakah? The Torah says I have to give 10% of my tzedakah, and I only make X amount of money, and I have to live, and I have to this and after that. Where am I going to get it from? So for a person to say, and so the Torah says you have to give tzedakah, you have to give this amount of tzedakah. You can do it. How can you do it? Figure it out. How do you figure it out? Either maybe you're spending too much money in the wrong way, or maybe you're not making enough money that you can't make enough money. He's in business, he can do it better, whatever. Again, it's certainly the subject about which I know very little from either end. But an interesting thing. But since the Torah said you have to do it, that means you can do it. The Torah wouldn't ask you to do something that you can't do.
Rabbi Deren, not to digress.
Don't start. I'm not finished.
1 second, Rabbi Deren, not to digress. You reminded me of the story. But again, this particular problem of tzedakah, one of Rabbi Kunyan's mechatanim, from one of the older kids from Long Beach, I forgot their family name. It's a famous yichidus that it was a doctor. If one of you remember the name, I think it's the mechutna of Mendy Kunyan. Anyhow, his wife's family. The kid said he was giving away too much tzedakah or something like that. So she's chesgeret in yichidus, the wife of this Isha, chesgeret in yichidus, that the man get avek zu viel tzedakah. So the Rebbe was listening, and from what I remember hearing, and I heard it a few different times, I learned in LA, I sat with the Kunyans. So the Rebbe said The Rebbe said she's right, and that she should make a special tzedakah account. The idea was to make a tzedakah account, and if he should manage it and she should manage the tzedakah account. That there's an approach to how to tackle a mitzvah, where like you're saying, to how it should be actualized. Another thing you're speaking, just two. First of all, I have a question for you, Rabbi Deren. You're the teacher today, also, not only the mashpia here. It's interesting, and I was thinking about this while I was learning the Sicha this week, that it's similar to when Aaron Nakane's kids, when they went into the Kedesh HaKadoshim and they passed away because it wasn't the right time. We know the story, and it's interesting in the story of the Meraglim and Shelach. This Nakuda is emphasized. Obviously, the Rebbe speaks about it in the Sicha too. I'm wondering why this Nakuda, to so to speak, give them the cheskas that they meant, although because they wanted to. Medrash says they wanted to stay. They made a whole scheme because they wanted to stay in the midbar because they didn't want to go into Yisrael to act. They wanted to stay in the ananakave, the manna. I don't know how good the manna was, but they claim it was delicious. Whatever it is, they wanted to stay.
Last week they were complaining about the manna. This week it's so delicious. All right.
Right. I'm saying that they claimed, but they wanted to stay in the ananakave and whatever. Why is this Nakuda so important? This Nakuda to say, to emphasize that so to speak, they meant well. If you see the result that Lepel they spent Lepel they didn't go into Eretz Yisrael, and Lepel wasn't the Nakuda. Why? And if we don't fulfill the Nakuda, if we don't fulfill a mitzvah properly, if we don't fulfill our shlichus properly, we mess up the whole deal. I will get to it later, hopefully, as we discuss the Sicha, but why is this Nakuda to say, and say by Aaron's kids, you see it, and in the Pasha, by the Meraglim, you see that over and over again. Anytime there's discussion, is to be saying that they meant well, or their intention was good, so to speak.
Well, first of all, in our Sicha, it doesn't bring that down.
No, in our Sicha it doesn't do it.
It doesn't emphasize it.
Right, yeah. It's always, when you think about the Meraglim, as we are taught to think about the Meraglim are the ones who wanted to stay in a spiritual world. Yeah, it's all good. The answer, I think, the simple answer to the question, why we emphasize it is because you need to make it real, and you need to answer a simple question, which is, what does it mean they were afraid to go into Eretz Yisrael? These were the people, and we're not talking about Chelek and Aron, we're talking about their Deya, that they themselves just that morning they saw Mon fell down from the heaven, and that water coming out of the bear coming out of the rock, and the Anania Kovid covering them, things that are l'mayla medar chateva legamri, veretnach what they saw earlier at Matan Torah and what they saw at Kriyas Yamsuf, what says, well, nisim on top of nisim on top of nisim. And what does it mean that they should say Eina Balabai Sechel Leitzias Kalef? I mean, like, what? How can it be possible to translate that? Kipshute, simply this is what it means. And the answer to that question is it's not Kipshute. It's not meant. It didn't mean it Kipshute in the sense that Chalela the Eibishter is not capable of doing that. What it means is that they were saying that the Eibishter didn't give us the keiches to do what we have to do.
Right.
In other words, we're not capable of it. The Eibishter wants us to go into Eretz Yisrael and wants us to go into and to go to sort of leave the Anania Kovid and to go into a land with a Gashmi v'Achumri, and we can't do it. So again, they were wrong, and that's what that's what the Sicha, is Nakuda that the Sicha emphasizes. They were wrong because since the Eibishter told them that they should do it, therefore they can do it. So, which means, like, for instance, our theoretical balabas with the tzedakah problem, for him to say, I'm going to give $500,000 of tzedakah, and to make a promise, I'm giving $500,000 of tzedakah, and now he's breaking his head, how am I supposed to do that? The answer is, you undertook to do something that you're not possible of doing. 10% of tzedakah, the Eibishter told you have to give. 50%, 100%, the Eibishter doesn't. But to say that you are capable of doing all of it, no, you're capable of doing whatever Torah tells you to do. I can't help but.
I'd like to flip to the other side of that coin. In other words, you're both speaking about the seder. The seder. I mean, I could just tell you the way everybody sees their own. I found it extremely empowering. Pashut as a person, as someone who's supposed to be a chassid and a shliach, that the Rebbe over here is saying that this nekuda, that as the Eibishter haste, when the Eibishter tells you that you can do it, if a person who creates something knows that if I ask my child to do something, I'm not going to ask of my child to do more than they're able to do, al-achas kama v'kama on the Eibishter. This is it's not just empowering, it's a tremendous ahava that the Rebbe is teaching us. This is how I see it in everything that we do. How often does the Nefesh HaBahamis stand in the way and tell me it's impossible, you're crazy, and and when we just, I don't know, as a very practical hero in life, v'yosuru es eretz Canaan. Before we go into whatever teaches us the kavon and everything else, Pashut to denken that if this was asked of us to do, then we have the koiches to do it. I know you're saying it has to be very from a sudder. But I'm saying it's the nekuda as a wissendik. The etzem zachas we can wissen as mishluchim. Your Lubavitcher Chassid. Steht jetzt, like Berl said before, steht jetzt far Gimmel Tammuz. There's so many heroes, so many things that are expected of us, and sometimes was. And a Yid can kind of the same thing. A Yid that we meet in the street who's not yet a Shemer Teru Mitzvahs, kind of the selbe Zach. And those are there, like in very, very barochu bitchak tanon, ze poshete asis, and basic asis, which speaks directly, I think, to poshete to my nefesh ba'amis. Those make a poshete cheshbon. The Eibishter hat dir geheißen das Ton, kennst du das Ton und du wirst das Ton. Und du hast die Kirche.
Shaul, there's a word, I believe, I don't have the Sicha in front of me, but when I remember in the beginning of the week, that Moshe sent you, I mean, the Eibishter is delegating mitzvahs or responsibility. There has to be a path. There is a way, but But even if you have to be Seimach on a nest, there was a word there.
Yeah, so it's in this Sicha. It's in this Sicha about the nest, but we have to minimize the nest.
Right. But even if you have to be Seimach on a nest, it has to become through the Deren Hateva effort.
Yeah. And I don't know if you saw Berl, but I knew you would like it. I don't know if you saw the Ha'orah in Ha'orah number 6 that the Rebbe brings the Ramban. The Ramban says that the Eibishter Hateva Yokor Be'enov, that the Eibishter Teva is precious. In other words, he wants us to do it b'derech hateva. I mean, you think about Berl. We are looking at Rabbi Deren. We're looking at the shluchim who inspired us to go on shlichus. It's the nakuda of this balance. If that word even fits here, that mitzad echad, that you know that all the koiches is coming from the Mishalech. And it's b'shlichus shel Moshe dafka. And it can be done. And mitzad sheni, and mitzad sheni, not having lemalach. Never doesn't want a sort of robotic lemalach, which just are sort of computing their shlichus and the heroes and check, I did this. The alle chushim, alle keches, everything wants come back from Eretz Yisrael, from Eretz Canaan, and report the ganze keches. Don't come to Maskana. In other words, report the way you see it, and no, don't be shy. I want you to report the way you see it. Moshe Rabbeinu doesn't want the Meraglim to say it the way he wants to hear it. He wants to hear them say it on their terms. He doesn't want them to come to a maskana. That's none of their business, because that was never asked of them. And das is the emunah which they need to remember in Moshe Rabbeinu. I'm saying this is legabe shliach, legabe yid, legabe anything.
The vart was, in two English words, was not if, but how. Meaning, obviously, the end and what Rabbi Deren started to discuss, Rabbi Yisrael, the negaya, that our job of how we approach Teda Mitzvahs, there's two parts and everything else. But what the bottom line is, it's not, if the Eibishter wants from you, that's clear. Our job is how and to make the keli and to actualize it. Stam, I have to admit, this week I learned the Sicha, and Rabbi Garari, Meshela, as we know him amongst our Chaverim. Some weeks I learn with Meshela, some weeks it's amazing how many teachers are available. It brings me back. It's unreal. Anyhow, so this week I learned the Sicha with Meshela, with Rabbi Garari. And I have a major taina on Rabbi Garari. I hope you're watching. And if you're not, I hope one of your chavedim tell you what I said. I should have a serious taina.
You're talking Rabbi Garari's junior or senior?
Yeah, Rabbi
Yossi's son. Anyhow, he's a major.
Not Rabbi Garari. You're talking about Meshela Garari. Okay.
But Rabbi Meshela, yeah, he's part of the organizers from what I hear in this project.
Yeah.
But I actually have a complaint, and I'm serious about my complaint. So if Farbrengen, I need an excuse to complain, so I'll say l'chaim, and I have a complaint for Rabbi Garari. 1 second.
Berl, is that water?
Yeah, I'm on a campus. It's only water. I signed a declaration. Anyhow, Rabbi Garari, you teach unbelievable, and I have no idea how many thousands of people learn with you every week, including myself. Many of the weeks I learned the Sicha with you. You don't even know it until now. But why don't you crack a joke? Rabbi, Milsa the B'dichis, Tanu Rabbanon, whatever. Meshel, crack a joke. You're too serious.
That's a reason to smile.
I'm very serious in my complaint, and Rabbi Garari, I'm expecting a joke. Even the Rebbe used to say stories, and I said, the Rebbe still.
You need to get on 5 minutes before he starts, because it says Pasach. Yashav ve'emese, okay? Kol Talmud Sheyeshev ve'ensev seisev neitzvus bar is like,
Rabbi, you're on shlichus on campus yourself. Over here, we're invited to after parties, not to before parties. Let's get back to serious talk.
Let me interject with a story that I remember when it happened. There's a chassid, his name was Rabbi Lezer Nanis, who spent many years in Soviet prisons for his work for Yiddishkeit in Russia. And he was, Baruch Hashem, he was ultimately freed and was able to leave Russia. And I remember when he came to America the first time, if I'm not mistaken, it was Tovshin Lamed, but it may have been earlier. And he was invited to eat at the Rebbe's table on Yom Tov, together with a very small select group of older Chassidim. And it was the first night of Sukkot, and it was in the Sukkah. And the Rebbe asked him, I don't know who initiated the cut, but at one point the Rebbe asked him if during all of the years that he was in Siberian Gulag, did he ever have a chance to have a Sukkah and a Esrog and Lulav. I think he said that a Sukkah, there were times that he was able to somehow manage to put together something, but no, he never had an Esrog and Lulav during all of those years. So the Rebbe said, then, no, Mestama, that you did it the way Reb Shimon Bar Yochai and Reb Shimon did it in the cave, then they were Mekayim the Mitzvahs Baruchnias. By the Farbrengen, following that, so I think it was the Farbrengen on the second day of Sukkot, or Shabbos Chalamed, so the Rebbe was talking about the idea of a person being Meser Nefesh to do a mitzvah. Sometimes the person is called upon to be Meser Nefesh to be able to Mekayim the mitzvah. However, there's Mesiras Nefesh. You can ask a person to be Meser Nefesh and jump off of a roof. If he has to jump off a roof to say it's possible to jump off a roof. but it's not possible to jump onto a roof. You can't say to a person, have mysterious nefesh, and jump onto the roof. It's not possible to jump onto a roof. It's not. If a person is in such a circumstance where the only possible way that he could be mekayim the mitzvah is by jumping onto the roof, then he can know that he is not required to do the mitzvah. The same Eibishter that put him into circumstances where he is, the same Eibishter that gave him and told him to do the mitzvah is the Eibishter that put him at this time, in this place, where it's physically impossible to do the mitzvah. But it has to be impossible, physically impossible. Not jumping off is another thing. Jumping on, however, then you know. So that's, we need to understand that. There are times when it's not possible, the Eibishter said, but those are rare and far and in between. It's not possible to go to the Ayah for Gimmel Tam. It's not possible this year. The only rare is the Eibishter has to bring Mashiach, and then we'll be able to go. We'll be with the Rebbe together. On the other side, as Rabbi Wilhelm says, now that we're rabbiing everybody, as Rabbi Wilhelm says, the other side of that coin is that, and I think that this is a connection directly to Gimmel Tammuz with the thing. We take a look in the mitzvahs and the Torah, in Chassidus, it also explains that mitzvahs are mugbal. Every mitzvah has its hakbala. Only 4 corners to a talis cotton. There's only 4 parshas in the tefillin. Every mitzvah has its specific limits. This is what the mitzvah is, and this is what the mitzvah isn't. It's 10%. This is what the mitzvah is. And to go beyond that and to do more than that, the Eibishter didn't tell you that you have to. Therefore, if you can't, you can't. Masha'en Kain, everybody sitting here, every chassid was zeicha to be a chassid of the Rebbe. In addition to the Tayag mitzvahs of the Torah, a chassid has a ras from the Rebbe. Al pi Torah, I don't know whether it's possible to find an absolute requirement to pick yourself up and to go off to Pinoni Dachas in the end of the world, where there's Sachakal, just a couple of Jews, and spend your entire life taking care of them. Especially since it's also dangerous. Not necessarily begashmis, even though sometimes it is, but achas kama v'kama beruchnis. How can you tell a person to do that? Al pi Torah, you can make an argument that it's not only don't you have to, but you're not allowed to, as the Rebbe said. Al pi, the way it's brought out in Shulchan Aruch, you can make that argument. And that argument was certainly made. I don't know that it continues to be made, not because they're beginning to look a little foolish, but it certainly, they heard it. I go back a little bit to Tafshin Yud, when the Rebbe started. My mother went to Beis Yaakov. She was among a handful of Lubavitcher girls in Beis Yaakov in those days. And they didn't have it easy. She made a lot of friends. And then she's getting married and she's moving to Pittsburgh. And her friends were like shocked. Like, how is it possible to go to Pittsburgh, a desert, and how are you going to raise from kids in a place like Pittsburgh? It's you're not allowed to. You're not allowed to. Okay, Shetzach made a very, very deep impression on them. But I was 3 years old. Maybe I was 4. We once came to the summer. There was some kind of convention from Mechanchim in Camp Muna, whatever. And we came, and after that, we went. They were in the country then, my mother's friends in a bungalow colony. We came to the bungalow colony, so they put out supper. So they put out what? Hot dogs. I don't know if it was a barbecue, whatever, but hot dogs. So I put the hot dog, and so I look at it, and I lean over to my mother, and I said, could I have some milk? I say, give a cook, okay, a Yiddish kind, and he's sitting in front of a hot dog, and he's asking for milk, and they proved him right. Until my mother was able to explain to them that I never in my life seen a hot dog. I had no idea what it was. In Pittsburgh, there's no kosher hot dogs. Who comes to hot dogs? What's hot dogs? I didn't even know what it is. But that's okay. To say to not have what every taiva that you can have in Williamsburg and in Borough Park and we didn't have it in Pittsburgh when we were growing up.
There you have it in Gainsville.
What's that?
There you can have it in Gainsville.
So, however, because we're Chassidim, Shluchim, the Rebbe comes and tells us this is what you have to do. Now, because now the Rebbe said this is what you have to do, this becomes for us exactly the same as the mitzvah of putting on film. That what? That you take a look at it and it seems, in Derech HaTeva, it would seem it's impossible. It's not possible to go to Gainsville and to Oslo and to make it into Shem Niteru mitzvahs in such a circumstance. It's not possible. Enough with everything that you have to go. But I heard that they still don't have a sushi place in Gainsville, a kosher one. Elamai, it's possible.
Rabbi, you have not
it's
visited
possible
me in a
because
while.
in the Sicha Shelach, in the Chelek Gimmel, the first Sicha in Pasha Shelach, it says there beferish that it's possible to do what other people think are impossible things. Why? Well, the Rebbe Gehesen, and that is the biggest gift that we have. That the Rebbe, how is it? The last words in a letter that the Rebbe wrote to Rebbetzin Groner, Allah Shalom, in Australia, in Melbourne. Fortunate are those who the captain, I'm not saying the words exactly, the fortunate are those who the captain has given many tasks. Fortunate are those who the captain has chosen, for he has given them many tasks. The things that the Rebbe gave us as tasks is what makes us fortunate. That we are capable, every single one is capable of accomplishing impossible things. And that's what the Sicha, I think, is saying. Okay, that we can do what it says in the Torah to do. We've been doing it for 3,000 years. Okay, that ship has sailed. We know that it's doable. We wouldn't be here if it wasn't doable. We can even do the undoable. Why? Because the Rebbe told us we could. Because the Rebbe told us we should. L'chaim. I'm monopolizing the conversation. I apologize.
You should know that the heroes that the Rebbe brings out in the Sicha is, first of all, a chizuk, so to speak, a strength in Avedas Hashem as well. In every simple or fundamental way possible, it's if you learn the Sicha, it just gives you chizuk in practical Torah and mitzvahs as well, which, believe it or not, I know you, Rabbi Deren, don't suffer from this, but it's a struggle sometimes to be basically ehrlich yid, ehrlich chassid, fulfilling the Torah mitzvahs, the shiurim that the Rebbe gave us.
How do you know that? How do you know that I don't? Because it says in Perek Alf and Tanya that only at Sahara Shaga B'tainis.
It's only one of their eyes.
Right. I'm not joking, guys. I'm not joking. This time I'm not joking. It's a tremendous chizuk, in a simple, so to speak, a simple way from regarding our shlichus as yidden, our connection to the Eibishter, and how to approach a mitzvah, the vastness of a mitzvah, the two nekudas that the Rebbe says about the preparation for a mitzvah, and then the mitzvah itself, which is alone an amazing hero and lesson. Beyond that is the lesson, the Negeya, the Moshe Rabbeinu, the Shelach, the shlichus that we're each sent, and you don't have to go to Gainsville for this. You don't have to leave wherever you are, wherever you're living. To every single member of Anash, to every chassid, to anybody that says that I'm connected to the Rebbe, we all have clear hiros from the Rebbe, and the Rebbe expects that from each and every one of us. And the Sicha is unbelievable in that regard. I want to share with you guys a little bit of back end. The Chabad on campus shluchim, as well as other shluchim, as we know, different groups of Anash classmates. There's hundreds of chats today and WhatsApp groups. So this week, just 2-3 days ago, somebody, PPP, EPP, idle loans. I'm sure all of you guys are seeing. Sorry, Shaul, us in America, believe it or not, COVID has been, in a certain sense, businesses and nonprofits have access to money now. I don't want to get into the details, but the Americans watching and joining us today,
because even if you live outside of America, you can get it. If you're an American citizen, you can get it too.
So you're an American citizen?
I'd be an American citizen. I'd be sitting in New York right now.
but I'm thinking now about something else. You guys just reminded me. It's not for this setting. Anyhow, so the after party. The kids. So listen to this story. This is relevant to everybody. And so the Chabad and Camper Shluchim have this WhatsApp group, obviously, to give each other ideas, chizuk, share resources. This a couple of days ago, but this week somebody started discussing this idle loan, which is not PPP. Idle loan, tens of thousands of us joining probably know about this, whether you're in business or in shlichus, whatever it may be. So the shluchim were discussing, should we take the idle loan? It's chayvus, it's simply a loan, even though it's from the government, low interest. So we got into a whole discussion, some of us privately, some of us publicly, or both of it, regarding this concept of negate metabreitkeit. Do you go lechatchila riba? So some people discuss the shluchim that went out first that had chayvus, other the famous $18 million Kunyan story, and Rabbi Shvatkin stories, and Rabbi Feller stories, and the original shluchim that didn't have necessarily PPP or idle, or have chaverim helping each other, or charity or crowdfunding campaigns. B'kitzur, why am I sharing this story now and this conversation on the campus exchange in reference to this week's Sicha? So somebody mentioned that the famous I think the Ayem Yem about the Friedrich Rebbe, that he always was in Chavis till the end of this. He was always in Chavis, and that at the end of the year somehow it adjusted and he got into Chavis again. So the whole debate: should you go into Chavis or not? Is it the kids? It's a number of shluchim were discussing the connection to this week's Sicha, this idea of do we have the keiches, and what are, so to speak, the nisim that we rely on. But my point is that even our Avedas HaShlichus, the gashmius of our shlichus, the gashmiistic responsibilities that we have as anash, as parents, as teachers, as business owners, whatever it is, risk, not risk, does the Eibishter give us a task, like Rabbi Deren said, like the Rebbe says in the Sicha, that the Eibishter does not put something in front of us. This thing right now in front of us, if there's a loan available, and it is, Eretz the table, but there's some kalim, the tikkun, so obviously it can be, I'll tell you the words I use privately, I argued that you have to go a little bit out of your hakbolus. Yeah, it has to be b'derech hateva. I'm talking again. This translates from the simple things that the Rebbe is speaking about in the Torah and mitzvahs, but way beyond the hira as chassidim and shluchim of the Rebbe. That what the Rebbe tasked us with, you have to go a little bit beyond your hakbolus to be able to have the nisim, so to speak, within teva. And I argued that there was something like idle, that it's a bracha in front of you, and you can utilize it as a vehicle. Of course, it has to be the cheshbon, v'chulu, just like anything we tackle, and the mitzvahs that we take upon ourselves, it has to be the sheyasa, v'chulu. But anyhow, in each lefum shu'ur, I'm just highlighting that a conversation that's the Negei Shluchim is pashut in this week's Sicha, and many other things, the frat in association and in proximity, and like you say, we're in Gimmel Tammuz already, so to speak. Especially the laws that the Rebbe wants from us as chassidim.
Shaul, you want to?
I'm because I live in Norway, and because it's June, the middle of June, so I have now a window of 25 minutes that I can daven Ma'ariv. It's already 10 minutes ago it started, So
let's continue for another 5-10 minutes.
No, it's going to be over.
So if you, I love Rabbi Deren, I'll stay with him. But if you go,
anyway,
Shaul, you remind. One minute, Shaul, you're reminding me. I was once a bacher. Wait. I was once a bacher, and I was sitting by a Farbrengen. I was once a bacher, and I was sitting by a Farbrengen. I remember where. I'm not going to say where because that'll ruin the story. And it was Shabbos Mincha, and people started getting up to go to Mincha. You said Ma'ariv. And I was told by somebody that everyone respects. Okay, let me put it that way. You for sure respect him. And I was told that if we go to Mincha, if we're breaking a Chassidish Farbrengen to go to Mincha, of them getting gain in Yehenim. So I don't. Did you hear me? Rabbi Deren, do you agree about the Shabbos Mincha?
Is that Seder wird gemont, that you should have realized before we started when it's Ma'ariv and figured it out in such a way that you should
bring either after or before.
I'm not going to pass in this Shiloh, okay? You heard from Berl, I'm not going to.
I'm putting on my hat and jacket and I'll daven Ma'ariv. Don't worry, we're involved. The davening is not going to be.
So, remember that I warned you that for this Ma'ariv,
Berl, wo ich gehe, du kommst mit.
Because you don't have any chatoyim, so you don't have to worry. But for this, you might have to worry. L'chaim Rabbi Deren.
I was listening to your story, or I was listening to your description of the conversations and communications that you were having, and what occurs to me again, I'm nowhere in position to give people advice specifically about matters such as this, because by me the Eretz Teo didn't get near any kind of Kalim, let alone Kalim Detikin. But
that was the argument on the other side.
Yeah, I understand. Having said that, though, I'm just thinking that you have to. The Likkutei here in the Sicha is not that you have to do it with a Seder and that's it. The Likkutei of the Sicha is here that what you're doing is with the Eibishter's Keiches, and if he gave you the job, then he gave you the ability to do it. It's not possible to do it without Nisim, Hashem. If you're going to have Nisim, you're going to have Nisim. But you have to do the job. And look, I'm not. I don't think I would be wrong if I were to say that when it comes to building a building or to even buying a house, how many people don't go into Chavis to buy a house? Everybody want to buy a house, but get a mortgage for hundreds of thousands of dollars. You want to build a building. How many people do you know that build buildings? First, they raise all the money. There are such people, and everybody would be able to do it. But
people.
Yeah, but Deren is it means taking a mortgage of a couple $1 million, okay, which are like telephone number figures. But that's what the building is. So and here they're coming and they're giving it to you on a platter. Say, take it, please. Here, the whole application is 4 sentences. We're not going to look, and the interest is going to be half of what you would have to pay anywhere else in 30. Look again. It's like. I'm thinking maybe that's the whole reason for this whole, at least in America, for this whole COVID business.
There's a silver lining, as they say. There's brachas. No, after, in Tanya it says, no, after severity comes mercy.
The Eibishter has the ability to give mercy before severity and without severity.
But the severity came. But the severity came already. Let there be rachmanis.
But let's not be the
Eibishter's lawyers.
Right, exactly. The main thing is you give us good things and happy things and healthy things.
By the way, Rabbi Yisrael, this Nekuda, I didn't say the story of the camp of Shluchim dafka for that Nekuda of money. Money is the big issue always.
It's good that you're making that point, but I understood it, but in case somebody else didn't, I think it's important to make.
I'm saying
I don't think anybody should think that. I wouldn't think that somebody would think that.
My point is that when it comes to Avedas Hashem or the Rebbe's shlichus for each chassid or the Rebbe's expectations of each chassid, I can't learn a Sicha every week. I can't learn everything. I can't pay schar limud. I can't be with my. All of those I can't is the same thing with the. That was the Nakuda that I'm trying to say. That you have to go out of Yagbolos and set bigger, and the Abishter will give you the Keach.
Perhaps I would conclude by saying that I think the biggest raya of that, or at least the most apparent raya of that, is this project itself. The amount of people and the types of people that you wouldn't think would even be shaykh to it by themselves are learning, and not one sicha but two sichas every week, and like it's and I'm just hearing them. It's like, wow, this is unbelievable. How is it that I didn't know about this? How is it? It's why? Because look, there is nothing. The Rebbe said the way to bring Mashiach is by learning Teres Rabbi Stein and Siena till Likkutei Sichos. Likkutei Sichos was the only sefer the Rebbe mentioned. Okay, and that's going to bring Mashiach. There's no question it's going to bring Mashiach. Yichudei Ilah, Yichudei Teta, Abrasa Mashiach.
Rabbi, 1 second. Shaul, you missed some good stuff, but when you said bracha chreina or maitiv?
It was a very nefesh. I don't think it was a whole lot of
Asher Yotza?
Berl.
Okay, listen. Stop, Rabbi Deren. But again,
what Berl's trying to say is you're going to get a double portion. You're going to get a portion for leaving the Farbrengen, and you're going to get it for the Farkash.
As I left the Farbrengen.
One second. I have to share the story. It's probably connected to the Sicha of the week, and I have to tell you. And then I have to tell you a amazing thing that happened just now this week as well for the gay of the Sicha, for sure. But Rabbi, there was a story just shared. Maybe you guys know. I never heard the story before. I actually asked on that group. It was a Florida Shluchim group. Somebody posted a video of this Palish. I don't know what chassid. He said that somebody told him. Again, he says who it's going. It was just 2 weeks ago that he heard the story of somebody that was in Berlin, and he said it wasn't the Rebbe. He said there was a chassid in Berlin that this Polish person was watching. He was an Avid, and he would daven. Maybe you guys saw the story, but anyhow, for everybody listening or joining us, it's a Meirdik story. It says that this Avid would daven, basically would wake up, he would stay up till basically Shachris was about 3-4 in the afternoon after the whole night and the whole day learning. And he said that this person that told him that he heard the story from witnessed this in Berlin, and that when he finished davening, this chassid, he didn't say who it was, and I asked him to ask this guy who it was. I wish somebody knows, but it doesn't matter who it was for this part of the story. He said that he heard this chassid while he was rolling up his tefillin 4 o'clock in the afternoon, after being up from midnight till 4, preparing for davening, and obviously it sounded like a weekday or whatever. He said he heard him singing on the low. I don't know where it was, a shul, a chatke. I don't know where it was. He doesn't say. He says it was a chassid in Berlin. He said he heard him singing. I'm
not sure.
Do you hear me?
I hear
Rabbi.
you.
Rabbi, I sing this.
Who else can sing such a story? Sing such a song?
He didn't say it was the Rabbi. He said
No. Who else can sing a song like that other than somebody that davens like that? That you and I have said daven zachnish, and we should be complaining that's a daven zachnish. Hello. Why should it? Have you ever tried?
Yisrael, you should know I sing that song sometimes.
I understand.
I'm not ready to tell you now when I sing that song. Maybe if we're online a few more hours, perhaps.
In such a public setting, it's probably not worth really speculating. But if I'm not mistaken, I don't think it was Berlin, but it was Germany. And it was in Pucking. And I think it was Rissol Neveler. That's something in the back of my head gives me such a... But anyways, actually, yeah, the story is...
By the way, you mentioned Laser Nanas. I forgot. He was in Yerushalayim, right? In Shikun Chabad.
Yeah.
I had this... I don't. This is not the platform for this, but in Tafshin Mem Ches, I was a Talmud in Teres Yeshiva Gedela in Rechov Chana downstairs, and Shikun Chabad Shul was below our Zal or dormitory, and Laser Nanas was there. I remember. Anyhow, the Negeya this week's Sicha, let's get back to the Kuda of the Farbrengen. So I'll tell you a story of 2 nights ago. One of our alumni, Baruch Hashem, he's from now. He lives in Dallas. So he was having he got married last night. So the night before his chasana, myself, my dear colleague and Chaver Rabbi Aaron Chaim Natik, and a few close students to him. His name is Liran Ronen, and he got married last night. So we had a Farbrengen on Zoom, the new platform. Anyhow. So everybody spoke, and he spoke, and he spoke about this, and he's a Sephardi, but it was about 20 students, myself, Rabbi Aaron Chaim Natik, my colleague. The Kitzer, one of the Nekudas of that Farbrengen 2 nights ago, towards the end of this week's Sicha, the Rebbe speaks about the Mashpia and the Mekabel, with the mitzvahs, that through the mitzvahs, we are the Mashpia, and the Eibush is the Mekabel. So, obviously, right. But anyhow, it's pashut fascinating that every part of at least my week, and I could tell you multiple weeks since I started being on the same page of all Chassidim. I've been waiting for years to say that we're on the same page. That's the way the Farbrengen started. It's pashut. It's relevant. Chassan is getting married this week. This week's Sicha must be in Mekabel, the whole Indian, and then whatever. Then Rabbi Aaron Chaim shared about the Maimer, the Likkutei, whatever. I'm telling you, showing you Pashut clearly multiple times how the Sicha was relevant and is relevant to every week, every day. But Prati is Prati.
I mean, the second, we're discussing Sicha, the first Sicha, but the second Sicha, just to mention. The whole word of the second Sicha that Moshe Rabbeinu davened for ganz Klal Yisrael, and that everybody needs the tefillah of the Rosh Bnei Yisrael to learn that Sicha a few days before Gimmel Tammuz is obviously Rabbi Deren.
It was a Shabbos Dike Farbrengen. Obviously, there's no tape. I remember the Rebbe's voice when the Rebbe gave the answer on Rashi, and he was talking about the Meraglim. And he was talking Moshe Rabbeinu was gebeten for Yidden, and it was like the Rebbe was speaking very low, and then when they said "Aber zu dem Meraglim Alein," and like his voice broke, it was like odd. It was like the pain that the Rebbe was saying. You could see it. That Moshe Rabbeinu wasn't able to pay for the Meraglim themselves. That it was like there was. It hurt Moshe that Moshe couldn't, because the Sicha is for another time. The main thing is that we should spend the next 6.5 days getting ready for Gimmel Tammuz Kiyos Karoi, and that we should be Gimmel Tammuz B'Tev Hanirva Nigla, and not that we should need Pulim, but we should be able to see it B'Einei Basar. That we're worth. I have unfortunately, at Ma'ariv I have plenty of time yet, but not that much time. But I have another class, and I'm going to have to.
Rabbi, I just want to tell you that it hurts Moshe Rabbeinu. It does. It still does. Our Moshe Rabbeinu. It still hurts our Moshe Rabbeinu.
No, Rabbi
Deren, how long do you have left? Right now, or you have 3-4 minutes?
I'll pay for them, but I'll take them. Go ahead.
No. I mean,
go ahead. No.
Rabbi, you can't tell. With the COVID, you can't say you were stuck on a train or you were stuck in traffic.
Bidiyuk. Not only that, you get these emails. Okay,
Rabbi. Before you go, Shaul, I want you to go. But Rabbi Deren, first of all,
no. I have for the class itself. No, that's okay. I have.
Rabbi Yisrael, I want to. I want to kiss you through the screen. I haven't spoken to you since your Einikel got married. Mwah. Mazel tov, your Einikel. What a chasana. Unreal. But we owe each other a hug and a dance. But whatever, that's for another time. I want to ask Rabbi Deren a question if he agrees with me on something, but I want you to go first. I need Rabbi Deren's validation.
I'll just say this. I mean, there's a yid here in Norway a few years ago who stayed on a Motzei Shabbos when we were watching Living Torah, and doesn't understand Yiddish, and was sitting and watching the Living Torah, and I don't remember what it was, which Sicha it was. And at the end of the Sicha, he turned around to me in complete fascination, and he says, "I've never watched a person speak with so much love before." It was an angle that I'd never certainly consciously thought of, because the Rebbe wasn't. It was a Sicha. The Rebbe was, it was a Farbrengen. I remember clearly the picture was not a Sicha. There was sitting there. Where's the koch? The Rebbe didn't have a smile on his face or anything like that. The Rebbe was speaking a Sicha, but it was. And since then, it's like when a person gives you that bulb, like you do mehert the Rebbe's ahave. In this week's Sicha, there's so much ahava that the Rebbe is portraying what Yiddishkeit is, what the Eibishter is, what Torah and mitzvahs are, and kamuvan, as Chassidim, as Shluchim, what the Rebbe is as our Shelach, and how fortunate we are, like, for real, like, Genukshim, I'm not talking about the Bittul, wie der Rebbe uns mekarev, und der Rebbe wants us to be, the Mashpia and the Mekabel become one. There's one Nekuda, maybe it's for my own, to get it off my chest after years, that Mehaltons in Ein Zogen for all the time about wie medav sein bottle, what ends up like this, as a Geschmack hat man, wenn man esst a Donut, because das mag man hat man Geschmack. Wenn man nicht hat man Geschmack, wenn man tut a Mitzvah, when you actually do what you have to do, Beruchen is that you're doing it nothing, no, it's a garnish. The Tusra, the Eibischer, the Geheißen, whatever the Geheißen, und Sottenstam mit dein Kopf, Sottenstam mit garnish. I mean, when you look at more and more in the Sichos that we've learned in the last, Baruch Hashem, 5 months, b'schus this project, and again in this Sicha, the Nekuda that the Rebbe wants all of us. He wants us. He wants our chushim. He wants us to be involved. It's shlach lecho ledaitcho, dafke ledaitcho, because without ledaitcho, and the whole ledaitcho in the Ha'oris, it's clear from a Michtav Kloli from Yudalef Nisan Lamed Beis, which is a hemshech to this Farbrengen, that it's clear that the whole shlichus ledaitcho is because we are mushish and atzmus, and because a yid feels bad about being a makabel nama d'chsufa, because we feel bad about it because we're not there, because our teva is the teva that motum eingepflanzt to be a mashpia. I just want to massacre with you one story, Rabbi Deren, because I know you'll appreciate it. I never said it. I've certainly never said it in such a public forum. And I was 7 years old, and my parents came to New York, and I was very, very fortunate to be in Yechidus and which Baruch Hashem I remember very well, b'schus my father's Ol Zayin Gesund und Stark, that made me repeat the Yechidus to him once a week for about 2 years. And wow. Made me repeat it again, and asked me again, what was das du gesehen auf dem Tisch, and what did you see here, and what did Tati wear, what did Mommy wear? So it's a slept. Wow. It's only 20 years.
That's a hero, a good thing.
It's only 20 years later when I saw in the Chassidim Mishpacha, was gedenkst du, that I knew that I suddenly read that it's a kunst from the Rabbi. But anyway, the Rebbe was sitting in his place, and my parents, my mother, but L'chaim Tevi, my father, and I was standing on the side on the Rebbe's left side, and my parents were speaking in Yiddish to the Rebbe. My Yiddish wasn't perfect then. And at one point, my mother was crying terribly. That I remember it was the first time I saw my mother crying. And at one point, the Rebbe turned around to me and wanted to faher me. So for weeks before, this was Kislev. From as soon as Simchas Torah was over, my father, knowing that we're going to New York, my father prepared me for the Yechidus, and my father said that the Rebbe asks kids about the standard questions that the Rebbe would ask kids is about this week's parsha is tzitzis. The Rebbe would ask on a general way, under bar bas mitzvah, the Rebbe would ask, under bar mitzvah, the Rebbe would ask the boys for her about tzitzis. How many strings, how many knots? My father drove me crazy. I knew because the Rebbe would ask the question until you didn't have an answer. And here my father I knew every single detail you could only know about the numbers and how many knots and how it's made and how it's this. Said, we're sitting in 70 in the middle of the night waiting for Yechidus, and a kid, what can you do? So at one point, my father said, "Come, I'll learn with you the parsha this week." It was Sunday night, Parshas Vayishlach. So my father sat and learned with me the first few psukim, told the story of Yaakov, Esau, which I knew already, but here he sat down with the Rashi, explained me the Rashi, Ahin, whatever. Comes an hour later, I don't know what time it was, Rebbe turns around to me. First, Rebbe started to speak to me in Yiddish, and I didn't understand. So Rebbe started speaking in English, and English I understood less. So the Rebbe turned around to my parents and said, "Was für eine Sprache redet er? Mit welcher Sprache können wir mit ihm reden?"
Translate.
Translate. When I told, what language? With what language does he understand? When I told the story to Rabbi Gurari, my dear Mashpia, Rabbi Gurari says, "Mir fragen denselben Schein beside." Anyway, so my parents said the Ivrit. So my Rebbe started to speak in Ivrit. At that point, we were living in Vienna. But very, very, within a few words, Rebbe started to speak in Yiddish, but spoke a lot slower. Suddenly I understood, but what shocked me was, I'm expecting questions about tzitzis. The Rebbe was asking me, what is the name from them Vos Parsha? I wasn't expecting that. When I had just learned it with my father, so I said, "Es ist Vayishlach." So was meint Vayishlach?
Shlach or Vayishlach?
Vayishlach. Was meint Vayishlach? I said,
English.
What does Vayishlach mean? I said, geschickt. And he sent. Wer hat geschickt? The Rebbe said, who sent? So I said, Yaakov Avinu. Zu wem hat geschickt? To who did he send? I said, to his brother, to Esau, to his brother Esau. Was hat geschickt? What did he send? What did Yaakov Avinu send? So I said, Malachim. So the Rebbe asked me, was meint Malachim? What does Malachim mean? I had just learned with my father what Rashi said. So I tell the Rebbe, Rashi zogt Malachim mamish. That's what I said. Rashi zogt Malachim mamish. So the Rebbe smiled, and the Rebbe said as follows: Ich weiß, was Rashi sagt, aber was sagst du?
English.
I know what Rashi says, but what do you say? At that point, I looked up at my father. I still remember till today looking up at my father like I didn't want to disappoint my father for not. I don't know how to answer that question. I looked at my father with his hand went like, it's okay, just okay. And that was the end. That was the end of it. That was it. I don't want to make a whole Farbrengen about this, but this is the Nakuda of this Sicha. Ich weiß, was Rashi sagt. Don't come and quote me this and quote me that, and tell me this, and you know this story, and you know that my Chazal, and you know this answer of the Rebbe. Was sagst du? Who are you? Where are you? And there was asking this to a 6-year-old child. like somebody pointed out to me a few years ago, he says, just think about it. For the next 20 years of your life, you were told in school, ich will nicht wissen, was du sagst, sag mir, was Rashi sagt. But the Rebbe at 6 years old was already asking in the 70s, right? Was asking a kid, once your opinion, was sagst du? The Sicha, the Gewaltigkeit of this Sicha is, the Rebbe wants both Nekudas. Both Nekudas. Mitzad Echod, like you said before, Rabbi Deren, it's clear the Koiches is coming Milamaylo, and we have to do it Al Piteva, and the Nisim will come, and we know it comes. I know it comes, and Baruch Hashem, many of my Chaverim, Shluchim, Chassidim, we know it comes. That's not the point. It has to be Ledaitcho. The Rebbe wants us. The Rebbe wants our personality. The Rebbe wants our thinking, our way how we think. And when the Rebbe says Anders, Weisman, we have to know to be mevatel datenu in ganzen. But there's no stira in the two inyonim. It's a tarta the sasser. Does the Rebbe want all of us, or the Rebbe wants none of us? Both. Both a shliach.
None of us. The none of us.
Okay, very good. Okay, very good.
Is it optional or mandatory for Chassidim?
Exactly. So the Rebbe wants it to be voluntary. The Rebbe wants it to be voluntary. The Rebbe wants us to be involved. He wants our chushim. Norvos, every time we do something, we come up with a new project, a new idea, whether we're in Shlichus, whatever we're doing, whatever Yid, whatever the Jew is doing right now, we come up with an idea, we have to think, is this Lasur Saaretz? Is this Asher Kiddishanu B'mitzvayso V'tzivanu? Is this Teirasai? Is this in line with the bigger picture of what the Eibishter's Kavanah is? Is this the Kavanah of the Rebbe? Is this what one? But if it is, if you think it is, go for it. Ledaitcha. Throw yourself and all your chushim. And sometimes you'll get a psak. It's okay. Sometimes you'll get a psak, but you'll be positioned back to where you're supposed to be. This being able to all the time, was sagst du? Don't give me terrors. Don't give me was Rashi zok. Anyway, that's it.
L'chaim, Shaul, Rabbi Deren is going to run in a minute. Hamaisu ikir, the Rebbe always demanded from every Farbrengen and everything, Peil Mamish. I want to know if Rabbi Deren agrees. First of all,
and we should do this every week. Even if they won't put us up on for the whole world to see.
100%. And we have to continue, but B'negei L'Peil, especially connected to this Sicha of this week and Gimmel Tammuz. First of all, it's unbelievable, and I see it in so many ways, that not only that we should continue learning at least one or two of the Sichas each week, but you'll be shocked at who could connect with this. Open your horizons, so to speak. Think about this in a broader sense. Introduce it to people. They're pashut. You'll be mechaya their week and year and life with this.
First and foremost, to the married men on this Farbrengen, first and foremost to your own spouses. Absolutely, this is like there's no reason why. Not only there's no reason why not to, it's pashut avla chigdela if you don't.
100%.
I'd like to recommend that I listen to. I learn the Sichos every week, Baruch Hashem, because of all the tremendous, like Berl said before. I don't have to repeat it, but I always try to listen. It's my own taiva to listen to Eli Friedman, the way he sums up a Sicha or his Nekud of the Sicha, and learn from him how he. Eli, you got to tell us who taught you all that English, but
his father.
Amazing.
Did you watch the family Friedman with the? Did you watch Eli Friedman with the concert with the father was listening till the end, and then they asked him to comment? All the kids were singing. Whatever. It's very special. Eli is very special. All the teachers on Likkutei Sichos project, the Noshim, the Unreal, and Yashakeyach, for myself personally, and
I like so agree with you. Absolutely.
One more nakuda, the negei lepeil mamish, and talking about nisim, the derech hatava. I want to suggest, and everybody again in their measure, from Gimmel Tammuz to help another chassid, to help one of the Rebbe's meisters. Rabbi Deren was speaking about tzedakah, that he's not familiar with both sides of it. First of all, Rabbi, you should be, and you will be, and I'll give you a bracha. You should be able to fulfill above and beyond.
I'm doing it with a cheshbon, that's what I mean.
No, don't do it with a cheshbon. Anyhow, I recommend to every chassid, man, woman, and child, to help another chassid for Gimmel Tammuz in so many different ways. I'm not going to give examples. Everybody can apply it. And I pashitzi nisim in my family personally and in our shlichus, and you could apply this to business and work and your environment, and help one of the Rebbe's meisters. Choose any of the Rebbe's meisters, a Beis Chabad, one of the primary meisters, specifically in connection with Gimmel Tammuz. There were other times that Rebbe clearly asked for this. It's connected to this week's Sicha in a big way as well. We're not going to need whatever. L'chaim.
We should. Can I just say l'chaim? I know this is selfish, but l'chaim, that all those who want to be begashmias in the Rebbe's Dal Damas, this Gimmel Tammuz, should be able to be there.
Amen. Gesundheit und Fröhlichkeit.
Was soll man tun, als David sagt nicht, essen, trinken.
Berl, while we're on.
So 1 second. I'm not gonna let you speak. You don't understand what just took place tonight and what's still available. The fact that we're Farbrengen and learning a Sicha with thousands of chassidim that learned the Sicha in so many different. Whoever's behind this, I swear to you, I'm an end user. I'm a client. Call me whatever the hell you want. I'm a customer. I don't want my money back.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not. They have no idea. I'm not involved. Sometimes I'm help. I have zero to do with this project.
Hashem should help them, and I mean this.
I don't know. I don't even know who's behind it. You remind me. So you have to hear this. I don't want to say which way. There was a group of. I'll tell you privately, because I don't know what's going to get on live here. I don't know how this works, but anyhow.
Should I stop recording?
No, absolutely not.
Okay.
I want to tell you something. I just can't say the message. There's a group of chassidim involved in doing things for Anash and Shluchim, and Shliach sends a message, and he says, "Who are these people? Who elected them? I didn't get the ballot. Who are these? Who is this?" No, he loved the group, but he said, "Who elected these people?" So I'm saying, but again, the Likkutei Sichos project, I have no idea who's behind it. I promise you, I don't. I don't know who's paying for it. I don't know who's organizing. I see the teachers. I learn with them I learn with them, and I'm enjoying it big time. In different ways, I use it.
I'm very fortunate to know a little bit. Not that I've done anything for it, but I just because of.
Wait. So, but who elected these people? I didn't even get the ballot to vote.
You don't have to. Okay, we don't have to use such expressions because it's going to bring out some other things. But
what do you think I'm trying? Where do you think I'm good? Rabbi Deren left. Let's get to the real Farbrengen. No, I'm just joking. Yeah.
The point is that we see a kav in the Rebbe Sichos. That the Rebbe says that when you start to do something, okay, starting with there writes when you start something, but when you start something and you suddenly see that you hit an akuda, when there was this whole debate, should it be, what should be, how should be, which sichos should they start from, if and what and when, and dafke these chalokim in Likkutei Sichos that are, I don't know how to say this, and I chas v'shalom don't mean this in any, but the reality is it's the krochim of Likkutei Sichos that are most forgotten for numerous reasons. But you'll look around and you'll ask around and you'll find out how many people, this is the first time they're learning these things. From Chelek to Svov, it's not like that. The first few halakim is not like that. And that's why everyone said there are difficult sichos. Why are we starting there? Lepoil mamish, the hashgoche protis of starting from these sichos is just unbelievable. I don't know if you know the details. Like one prat, there was a whole diun which I wasn't involved in. You know, the big boys, the people who know sichos, you know, kids. It was decided. 2 weeks later, on the WhatsApp group of those which are the Junge Light and Bachrin, which are involved in this, all of a sudden somebody says he took Chelek, it was Chelek Yud Alef in the beginning, took Chelek Yud Alef, and he looked at the Pesach Dover, reading the Pesach Dover, and he put a copy of the Pesach Dover on the WhatsApp group, and it says that the Chelek Yud Alef is coming out, the Kovet Shnas Hashivim of the Rebbe. It's like, you know,
this was after they made that. After they selected.
You know, came out.
I'm sure everybody knows that it's Shnas Hashivim. It's not connected.
It was connected with Shnas Hashivim of the Rebbe's Nesius, this project, right? But it was, and numerous times. I mean, when COVID started, 2 weeks later, to suddenly have that Sicha of it
was connected to the Nesius of the birthday.
Yeah, with the
you know of this.
You do the Alef Listen.
Listen, now it's connected.
Now it was Shivim Shana, right? This project started for Shivim Shana.
Now Shivim Shana for Nesias. Then I just wanted to everybody understand.
And then 2 weeks when COVID started, to suddenly have that Sicha that if you have Choyle bebeisoi Yelech lechoch.
I'm telling you, every week I see it in so many ways. It's crazy.
The koyach of so many shluchim, so many yidden, chassidim, anshe ma'isa.
Anybody that's connected to the Rebbe,
learning the same and having a sprach on the same is just.
I told you all these things just from the Bachrim, alumni, different pashut every day and every week in different ways.
Yeah.
So listen, I don't have to go down on Ma'ariv, I'll be honest. We'll talk about that enough. I mean, especially the timing of Ma'ariv is not now. I mean, it's not expiring right now. But I do have to call somebody. There was a Levaya today, as you know, here in Gainsville.
Anyway, the point is very simple. The point is, like you said, it's Gimmel Tammuz. The Rebbe wants a tremendous amount from us, and
the Rebbe is sending us out.
Yeah,
but the Rebbe is sending us.
It's very important that we remember that we remember that the Rebbe trusts us, loves us, gives us the koiches to do what we need to do with simcha. And understands that we have a nefesh bahamis and all that. Er wird nicht nispol von dem, der Rebbe wird nicht nispol von unser nefesh bahamis. Trusts us that we can accomplish what we need to accomplish, and not just do it milamailo lemato, but do it in a way of ledaitcha, that we actually, if you look at the words in the Sicha at the end, Elyon and Tachten, and then you read the Rebbe's letter of Yud Alef Islam, which is in the Ha'ara over here. It's for a whole Farbrengen, but it's almost like the Rebbe giving us a way of connecting in the strongest way. That dafke, when we come with our ledaitcha, dafke, then the Tachten raises themselves to the Elyon and becomes echad with the Elyon. And we think about those words in the sense of a chassid and a Rebbe and what we strive and live for, to be able to be verbunden, to be one with our Moker Achayos.
So I love you, and I love everybody else. I don't know what to tell you. When do we do this again? Next week, let's learn the Sicha, which we will anyhow. And we'll hear about the Zoom Farbrengen. Let's get together.
We're able to go to New York.
Am I going to see you in New York? I just made a ticket I don't want to make you upset or jealous. I know how hard it is.
Make me
I know, I said that wrong. You know what I mean. I made a ticket, Pasha, to go Thursday and come back Thursday with my 5 boys. I offered all the girls. I said, I'm ready to rent a camper, and go. Soon they said, Tati, we're not interested. Not Chas v'Shalom because of that. They're not interested in whatever. But I made a ticket. I hope the plane leaves and comes and goes. Masks. We'll have to see how that works. They're going to get me to wear a mask. Whatever. That's not for this conversation. Could you see me sitting on a plane with a mask? That ain't happening. Whatever. It's complicated. All right.
I'll come with 2 masks.
Yashakayach for the Farbrengen and
love you, man.
We'll talk.
I
I love you, man.